my wife whispered. I never signed up to care for a man in a wheelchair, while letting another man into our home. I said, understood, secretly chose surgery, rehab, and patience. Months later, when I stood in front of them, someone else. I am sitting here at 2 a.m. trying to process what my life has become. And honestly, I am not sure where to start. 8 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Good job. Solid marriage. Plans for the future. Now, I am learning that sometimes rock bottom has a basement. But maybe that is where you finally find out what you are actually made of. Looking back, there were probably warning signs I chose to ignore. Autumn had always been a little self-centered, but I told myself that was just confidence. She would make comments about how boring our life was, how she envied her single friends, how she felt like she was missing out on things. I thought that was normal relationship stuff. Everyone feels trapped sometimes, right? I am Riker, 34. Used to be a construction supervisor in Denver. The used to be part is important because everything changed when a crane malfunction sent a steel beam crashing down on me. Incomplete spinal cord injury, paralyzed from the waist down. The first few days in the hospital are honestly a blur. Pain medication, surgery, more pain medication. But I remember Autumn crying when she first saw me conscious. I thought those were tears of relief. Now I wonder if they were something else entirely. My wife Autumn seemed like she was handling it well at first. She was the perfect supportive spouse in the hospital, learning about wheelchair accessibility, talking about how we would figure this out together. She even researched home modifications we had need to make. I remember being so grateful that I hadn't lost her too. Funny how wrong you can be about the people closest to you. The first few months at home were brutal, and not just physically. I went from being this guy who built things with his hands, who was always moving and doing, to someone who needed help reaching things on high shelves. The psychological adjustment was honestly harder than the physical one. I started noticing how differently Autumn looked at me, not with disgust or anything that obvious, just disappointment. Like she was mourning the person I used to be instead of figuring out who I was becoming. She would help me with things, but there was this reluctance to it. This sense that she was doing me favors instead of just being my partner. That is when I started noticing things. Small things at first. Autumn staying out later, being on her phone more, seeming distracted when we talked. She would come home from work later and later, saying she had stopped for drinks with colleagues or had errands to run. I told myself she was just dealing with stress her own way. People handle crisis differently, right? But my brother Phoenix started bringing things up. He would drive by to check on me during the day and noticed our neighbor Wade's truck in the driveway. A lot, way more than made sense for someone who was supposedly just helping out around the house. Wade lives 2 houses down, unemployed handyman who has always got opinions about other people's business. Before the accident, I found him annoying but harmless. The kind of guy who borrows tools and forgets to return them, who shows up uninvited when you are grilling in the backyard. I should have seen the predator underneath the friendly neighbor act. The thing about being in a wheelchair is that people start treating you like you are not fully present. Like your disability affects your brain, not just your legs. Wade would come over ostensibly to help with yard work or minor repairs. They would get quiet when I rolled into the room, then resume their conversation about whatever project they were supposedly working on. Last week, I came home early from physical therapy and heard voices from the kitchen. Intimate laughter, the kind that makes your stomach drop because you know exactly what it means. Found them at the kitchen table, way too close, way too comfortable. Autumn jumped up like she had been caught shoplifting. Wade just sat there with this smug look. Wade was just helping me figure out the new washing machine settings, she said. But the washing machine was in the basement and they were drinking wine at 2 p.m. After he left, I asked Autumn directly, "Are you having an affair?" She didn't deny it. That is what gutted me the most. No tears, no apologies, just this cold explanation about how she has needs I cannot meet anymore, how she is still young, how she cannot live like a nun just because I cannot be a real husband to her. "I never signed up for this," she said. "This isn't the life I wanted, like I had signed up for it, like I had chosen to have a steel beam crush my spine. Like I wasn't mourning the loss of my old life too. So what do you want me to do?" I asked. Just pretend it is not happening. I want you to understand that I am trying to make the best of an impossible situation, she said. Wade makes me feel normal again. Normal. That word hit differently than anything else she could have said. Here is the thing though, and this is why I am writing this at 2 a.m. instead of sleeping. Something's changed. 3 weeks ago, my physical therapist told me about an experimental surgery, new technique, showing incredible results for incomplete spinal injuries, like mine. The surgery was last Friday, and it worked. I am not supposed to tell anyone yet. The recovery timeline is 6 to 12 months, but the nerve function is coming back. I can feel my legs again. In a few months, I might be walking again. Here is the crazy part. I haven't told Autumn. I am still pretending to be paralyzed because I want to see what she does. I want to see who she really is when she thinks I am helpless permanently. My brother thinks I should just divorce her and move on. My parents are horrified by her behavior, but I keep thinking about those vows we made 6 years ago for better or worse, in sickness and health. Did I mean them more than she did? Phoenix is helping me document everything for a potential divorce. It feels surreal, like I am building a case against my own life. The weird thing is, this whole experience has taught me something I never expected to learn. I thought losing the use of my legs was the worst thing that could happen to me. Turns out, discovering your wife's true character when you need her most is actually worse. But it is also clarifying in a way I cannot explain. I am stronger than I thought I was. Not physically, obviously, but mentally. I am handling this situation with more clarity than I have ever handled anything in my life. The depression from the first few months is gone, replaced by this quiet determination to rebuild whatever comes next. For the first time since the accident, I feel like I have some control over what happens next, and that feels better than walking did. Update 1. So remember how I said betrayal changes you? Turns out, recovery changes you even more, especially when the people who wrote you off don't know it is happening. The medical update first. The surgery was even more successful than they initially thought. I have got about 70% nerve function restored, and it is improving every week. Dr. Martinez says, if this progress continues, I could be walking independently within 4 to 6 months. The feeling of wiggling my toes in physical therapy without telling anyone might be the weirdest secret I have ever kept. But here's what I didn't expect. Keeping this from Autumn has been the most educational 3 weeks of my marriage. You know how you think you know someone after 6 years? How you assume you understand their character, their values, what they are capable of when times get tough. I was wrong about everything. The affair isn't just continuing, it is escalating. Wade's basically moved in. His truck is there every morning when I leave for therapy, still there when I come back. They are not even pretending anymore. Yesterday I came home and found his work boots by the front door, his coffee mug in the sink. A mug I had never seen before, which means he is comfortable enough to bring his own dishes over. When I asked Autumn about it, she got defensive. Said Wade's been helping her cope with the stress of being a caregiver. That is what she called herself. A caregiver. Like I am some burden she is nobly shouldering instead of the husband she chose to marry. You don't understand how hard this has been for me, she said. I need support too. Wade's been there when you couldn't be. The audacity is breathtaking. I am in physical therapy 4 hours a day, working my ass off to potentially walk again. And she needs support because being married to a disabled person is too stressful. I am the one learning to navigate stairs again, figuring out how to shower safely, dealing with chronic pain. But she is the one who needs emotional support from another man. But here is what is really messed up. I am almost grateful for this insight. If the accident hadn't happened, how long would it have taken to see this side of her? Maybe years. Maybe I would have spent my whole life with someone who only loved the convenient version of me. The version who could fix her car and reach high shelves and make her feel safe, without requiring anything in return. Phoenix has been documenting everything for the divorce attorney. Photos, dates, times. Yesterday, he followed Wade to his other job. Apparently, he has been telling people around town that he is helping take care of Autumn since her husband cannot anymore. Real noble of him, making himself out to be some kind of hero for sleeping with a married woman whose husband is in a wheelchair. My parents visited last weekend. Mom couldn't even look at Autumn, just kept staring at Wade's boots by the door with this disgusted expression. Dad pulled me aside and said, "Son, I don't care if you never walk again. You deserve better than someone who abandons ship the first time things get rough." The strange thing is how much peace I have about this decision. 3 months ago, the thought of losing my marriage would have destroyed me on top of everything else. Now it feels like cutting away dead weight. I am not the same person who married Autumn 6 years ago, and honestly, I like this version of myself better. This version doesn't need anyone's permission to be valuable. This version understands that real strength isn't about what your body can do. It is about what you do when everything you thought you could count on disappears. I have been going to physical therapy with this intensity that surprises everyone, including myself. Not because I am desperate to get back to normal, but because I am excited to see what I am capable of. Every small improvement feels like a victory Autumn doesn't deserve to witness. Dr. Martinez noticed the change in my attitude. "Most patients get frustrated during recovery," she said. "You seem more focused than ever." I told her the truth. I am not just recovering from an injury. I am recovering from everything. The plan is to let this continue for another month or two. I want to see how far they will take it, how comfortable they get with what they think is my permanent situation. Then I am going to reveal everything at once. The recovery, the divorce papers, all of it. Some of you might think that is cruel, but they have been cruel to someone they thought couldn't fight back. I want them to understand what it feels like to have the ground shift under their feet the way mine did 8 months ago. The difference is, I am going to handle it better than they will. Update 2. Well, it finally happened. The moment I have been both dreading and looking forward to for the past 2 months. Last week, I hit a major milestone in PT. I can stand for about 10 minutes now and take several steps with assistance. Dr. Martinez says the progress is remarkable, even better than our most optimistic projections. We are talking about transitioning to a walker in the next few weeks, but I have been maintaining the wheelchair charade at home because I wanted to see how this played out. And honestly, I am glad I waited. Phoenix has been my eyes and ears when I am not there, and what he has been telling me is insane. Wade's not just having an affair with my wife, he has essentially taken over my house, using my tools, eating my food, sleeping in my bed when I am at extended therapy sessions. Yesterday Wade actually answered my front door when Phoenix came to visit, just opened it like he lived there. Said Autumn's not here right now, like he was the man of the house. But yesterday was different. I had been at an all-day evaluation session at the hospital, texted Autumn that I would be home around 6 p.m. I got done early, drove home around 4:30. Wade's truck was in the driveway, of course. I sat in my car for a minute, trying to decide what to do. Then I did something I haven't done in 8 months. I got out of my car and walked. Not gracefully, not smoothly, but I walked to my front door and opened it with my own hands. The house was quiet, except for sounds coming from upstairs. From our bedroom, I climbed those stairs. Every step hurt. My legs are still weak. My balance is still shaky, but I climbed them anyway because some things are worth the physical pain. Our bedroom door was open. I stood there for probably 30 seconds, just watching. Not because I am a glutton for punishment, but because I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed this image seared into my memory so I would never be tempted to second-guess what I was about to do. "Having fun," I said. Autumn's scream could have woken the dead. Wade jumped up so fast, he fell off the bed, scrambling for his clothes. "Baby, this isn't what it looks like," Autumn said, grabbing the sheet to cover herself. But Wade went straight into damage control mode. "Dude, I can explain." She came on to me. I tried to say no, but she was so lonely, and you cannot. I mean, she has needs. That is when I took a step forward, then another. Then I was standing at the foot of my own bed, looking down at 2 people who thought they had been so careful. You should have seen their faces when they realized I was standing. Autumn went white. "How are you? When did you?" "I had surgery 10 weeks ago," I said, very calmly. "I have been able to walk for 3 weeks. I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I couldn't fight back." Wade was pulling on his pants, trying to get out of the room. Look, man, this got out of hand. I never meant for you. Never meant to get caught, I corrected. There is a difference. I pulled out my phone and called Phoenix. You can come over now, I said. Bring the papers. Autumn was starting to cry, but not sad tears, panicked tears. Riker, please. We can talk about this. I made a mistake, but we can work through this. I love you. No, I said. You loved the version of me that was convenient. When I became inconvenient, you replaced me with someone you thought would be easier. Phoenix arrived with the divorce papers 10 minutes later. Wade was nowhere to be found. Apparently, he had climbed out the bathroom window rather than face my brother. Sign these, I said, putting the papers on the dresser. I am not signing anything right now. I need time to think. Maybe we should try counseling, Autumn, I said, and my voice was quieter than it had been all day. I spent 8 months thinking I had lost everything that mattered. Today I realized I had only lost the things that were never real to begin with. She signed the papers. My parents showed up an hour later. I had called them from the hospital weeks ago and told them everything. The surgery, the recovery, the plan to catch Autumn in the act. They had driven down from Fort Collins to be here for this moment. The house has been quiet since yesterday for the first time in months. It actually feels like my house again. When I was lying in that hospital bed 8 months ago, I thought my life was over. I thought the accident had taken everything from me, my mobility, my career, my sense of myself, as a man who could protect and provide for the people he loved. I was wrong. The accident didn't take those things from me. It revealed that I would never really had them to begin with. What I had was an illusion of security built on someone else's conditional love. What I have now is something different. I have legs that are getting stronger every day because I chose to make them stronger. I have a brother who spent 2 months gathering evidence to protect me. I have parents who drove 4 hours to watch my wife realize she would bet on the wrong horse. And I have this quiet certainty that I can handle whatever comes next, because I already handled the worst thing I thought could happen to me. Final update. So it has been almost a year since the accident that I thought ruined my life. And I figured you all deserved to know how this story ends. Spoiler alert. It ends better than it started. First, the recovery update. I am walking. Not just walking. I am hiking. I am back to work. I am stronger than I was before the accident. Dr. Martinez says my case is going into medical journals because the combination of the experimental surgery and my recovery dedication produced results they didn't think were possible. But the physical recovery was actually the easy part. Learning to trust my own judgment again, that took longer. For months after Autumn left, I kept second-guessing myself. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe I should have tried counseling first. Maybe the affair was just her way of coping with an impossible situation. And I was the asshole for not understanding that. You know what cured me of that thinking? Running into Wade at Home Depot 3 months ago. He looked like shit. Unemployed, living with his sister, apparently bouncing between odd jobs, since the neighborhood talk made it impossible for him to get steady work around Denver. When he saw me, walking normally, looking healthy, clearly doing fine, his whole face changed. Riker, he said. Man, I owe you an apology. What happened? That wasn't who I really am. No, I said. That was exactly who you are. The difference is, I am not someone you can take advantage of anymore. He tried to explain himself, said Autumn had convinced him that I was never going to recover, that I wanted her to find companionship elsewhere. Complete bullshit. Wade, I said, you knew I was in a wheelchair and you ruined my wife in my house while I was at physical therapy. There is no version of that story where you are the good guy. I walked away and left him standing in the screws and bolts aisle, probably planning his next excuse for why nothing is ever his fault. As for Autumn, the divorce was finalized 4 months ago. She got basically nothing because adultery affects asset division in Colorado, especially when there is the kind of documentation Phoenix helped me gather. She tried to reach out a few times through mutual friends, apparently wanting to explain her side and see if we could find closure together. I declined. Some conversations aren't worth having with some people. But here's the part that might surprise you. I am not angry anymore. Not at her, Not at Wade, not at the situation. Anger was useful for a while. It motivated me through recovery when motivation was hard to find, but carrying it longer than necessary would just be carrying their poison around in my own body. What I learned is that some people are only capable of loving you when it is convenient for them. That is not your failure. It is theirs, and discovering that about someone isn't a tragedy, it is valuable information. The best part of this whole experience, finding out who I am when everything I thought defined me gets stripped away. I always thought my identity was tied up in being physically strong, being the provider, being the guy who fixed things and carried heavy objects. When the accident took that away, I figured I didn't have much left to offer. Turns out, I was wrong about that too. The man who spent 3 months secretly recovering while documenting his wife's betrayal. The guy who climbed stairs on weak legs, because some truths are worth the physical pain of learning them. The person who can look at the wreckage of his life and see opportunity instead of disaster. That guy is stronger than the person I used to be. I am seeing someone now. Dr. Martinez. Actually, we started dating after my recovery was complete, and our professional relationship ended. She is the kind of woman who sees wheelchairs and walkers as tools, not limitations. The kind who measures strength by how you handle adversity, not how much weight you can lift. Yesterday we hiked to the top of Mount Evans. 11 months ago I couldn't feel my legs. Yesterday I carried Elena's backpack for the last mile because she was getting tired. Standing on that peak, looking out at Colorado spread below us, I had this moment of clarity about the past year. The accident didn't ruin my life. It revealed my life. It showed me which parts were real and which parts were comfortable lies I had been telling myself. I lost a wife who was never really a wife, a neighbor who was never really a friend, and the use of my legs for 8 months. I gained the knowledge that I can survive anything. A woman who loves me for who I am instead of what I provide. And a body that is stronger than it has ever been because I had to fight to get it back. That is not a bad trade.